G'day and welcome to today's live. I would like to welcome you to, I'd like to give you guys a very, very warm welcome to today's live. And in today's topic is computers and how they work. And basically how could you get into computers as well and learn how to service them. In around 1990, in the 90s, I started computer repair. And it's been a challenge over the years, fixing up different problems. And most of the time, at least 80% of the time, it's mostly software related issues. Now, in the future, I will have a blackboard. I will have a whiteboard in back of me, and I will like a class, like an online TikTok class. I'll be able to help you your issues and how to solve them. Now, we are going to talk about how computers actually work and what do they do. A computer is like a giant calculator. And you enter data in and data comes out. Also, there's output devices, which is your monitor and your printer. Input devices is your mouse and your keyboard. All of this has to be controlled somewhere. This is when your computer's firmware or BIOS comes into play. And that also is the firmware of your board, right? That's the firmware. The firmware is like the operating system on the board. However, you need another. That is the BIOS. When the computer turns on, it goes through a power on self-test, right? Now, at this point, the machine has not fully booted yet. Therefore, it needs to look for an operating system. Either by a USB disk, either by a USB stick, or on the hard disk. Now, there's different types of operating systems available today, and that is most common is Windows and Mac. And also in industrial settings, you have got Linux. So you got three main. Yes, that's another distribution, but we don't want to touch that one. So basically the most common is Windows and Mac. And that's pretty much so once the machine looks for an operating system on your hard drive and finds it on the boot sector, then it proceeds to boot the operating system, which is Windows or Mac. If there's an issue with Windows itself, then you have a blue screen. Sometimes hardware can cause that problem too, like a blown capacitor on a video card, for example. What I've seen kernel panic being caused by a busted capacitor on a video card, for instance. But the video card was working enough to have it on screen, but as soon as it went into Windows protected mode, it fell over. There's one problem that you can have is hardware issues like a capacitor being puffy, and then it finally goes pop. So that's the first thing you look for when you troubleshoot a computer. When you troubleshoot a machine, when you open up the case side panel, first thing you look for is puffed up capacitors. That's the first thing I look for. Yeah, but dust, yes, dust can cause problems. Yes, of course it can. If there's dust inside the computer, that can also clog up the fans and cause the airflow to be problematic. That's a good point there, mate. Follow me, Mo, if you want to. So pretty much you do have issues with dust. The dust actually clogs, and Mo made a good point there. I was about to go to dust, but he beat me to it. Now, when there's dust inside of a device, doesn't matter what device it is, it can cause the airflow to be blocked or clogged up inside. Most commonly, it has happened with heat sinks on CPU heat sinks, and by fans. I've seen many times over the years that computers can have not more enough dust inside the unit, be like a vacuum cleaner bag. And what that does, dust can do, if a heatsink is clogged up, it can cause the fan it could cause the CPU, or any chip for that matter inside the unit, to overheat. And overheating is a very common cause of failure too, especially when the machine has got a crusty thermal compound between the CPU's chip and the heatsink, causing it to get crusty, and and then that causes the chip to overheat. On modern computers, the machine will just shut down if it overheats. It will shut down. It pretty much will shut down. So when there's not enough airflow, the electronics can overheat, and in some extreme cases, in order for the computer to protect itself, yes, of course it can. Overclocking, I'm pretty much against. Yes, overclocking can do it as well. Of course it can. There's many issues. There's many causes with computer hardware faults. Many causes. Overclocking is one of them. Yes, of course it is. If you apply too much power to the CPU, or overclock its clock speed, it can cause overheat and the machine will shut down. Now, if people want to do that, then using fans is not good enough. You'd need to have water cooling to solve that problem. There's two types of cooling in a computer today. One is by a traditional fan, and two is done by a water cooling, much like a motor car is, like using a radiator over a fan, much like a motor vehicle has got. Now, liquid nitrogen cooling. I think Mo's got a lot to say here. Liquid nitrogen cooling. That sounds. That's probably true as well. There's all sorts of cooling out there available today. All sorts of different types of cooling. Oh yeah, I will, mate. When I'm finished the live stream, you're more than welcome to send me a DM you're more than welcome to send me a DM off air. Alright, I followed you. And basically, if you want to be part of my team with my computer tutoring, you're more than welcome to. Now we need to. Now another thing about computers is that solid state drives is the future above traditional hard disks. If you want to set a computer up, don't use traditional hard drives. Don't use them. They run the computer slow. Always, if you want to boot hard disk, you use a solid state disk. Now, I think Mo wants to say something, so I'll let him come in. All right, Mo's on the air. Welcome. How are you?
How you going, mate?
You got things to say?
I was listening. I got a lot to learn from you. What's
So,
going on?
you got any questions to ask me?
You were talking about HDDs and SSDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the future, you're saying SSDs are the way to go.
Yes, they are. Because in my experience in the last 20 years computer repair, you don't traditional hard drives on the way out, and SSDs are the way to go with hard drive booting.
Yeah, for the speed of opening the computer, SSDs are much better, but the price difference as well.
It's pretty much well, how I do things is that I use SSDs, a boot hard drive, and the ordinary hard drive as the data hard drive. That's one way around it.
Okay.
I've been doing this. I've got over 20 years. I've been doing this since about '94, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Of course, when I first started, SSDs didn't exist back then.
Mm. Are you from Australia?
Oh yes, of course I am.
Yeah. Same. I'm from Melbourne.
Oh okay, well so am I.
Yeah, that's right. No, yeah. This computer topic's pretty good. What do you think about these crypto kind of stuff?
That's good. You mean cryptocurrency?
Yeah, like do you do mining, that kind of stuff?
Oh, I prefer not to say, but it's definitely no problem there at all.
Yeah, like people use their computers to mine and all that ant miner. I was researching about it, but I think it's all finished by now.
Uh, Look, it will go on and on and on for years to come.
Mm.
But basically, when people want to get into computers, it's best for you to go into a TAFE course to learn how to do it properly. That's my recommendation. Just go
Yeah,
with a TAFE institute and start learning and start getting proper training from a TAFE institute.
that's good. That's good. Good talking to you, man.
All
I'll
right.
be I'll be I'll be watching your lives from now on.
No worries at all,
Have
mate.
a good one, mate.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.
As I said just then. Now another thing that will affect performance is memory issues. Memory. Windows needs at least about 4 GB of RAM to be functional at both 64-bit and 32. Any less than that, it won't work very well. That 8 GB is recommended to make Windows run properly. But my recommendation is at least have about 16 GB of RAM, and that will give the machine a lot of resources and room to work properly. Now you can go into Task Manager and go down to System Resource Manager, and it will show you how the system is using its resources. Task Manager and Resource Manager. When you when you finish watching this video tonight, go into Task Manager and look for that, and then also in the next session today, I will show you the solution. But your homework tonight, after this thing is finished, is go into Task Manager and have a look, and you'll find a program, you'll find a feature in there called Resource Manager as well. And that will tell you the system resource, and they'll tell you how the computer uses its resources. Another thing that's useful for troubleshooting computers is also Event Viewer. Event Viewer in Windows. You can use that as well, and that also will tell you where the problems are too if the machine manages to boot. But sometimes if the problem is really, really bad, you might have to go into Windows Setup and repair and do the troubleshooting tools in there. Now I will tonight is an introductory video. Anyhow, people, it's time is up for tonight. Leave a love, and I'll see you next time. Also, make sure you follow me on YouTube and TikTok and YouTube. Now, I don't really want people to give me inappropriate comments, so I'm basically going to anyhow, guys, have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon in this series of computer videos. Have a wonderful night, and I do not want people to give me inappropriate comments either. Anyhow, if you guys want to send me a question and you guys want me to discuss about something else, just follow me and I'll follow you, and then we'll have this. Then you guys can send me a DM or something on my Instagram, and have a wonderful night.